What's going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, right here on the Casa D18 Studios Channel. I am the Renegade JJ Williams, and today, not only are we being found on the Casa D18 Studios Channel like always, but today we are getting an encore performance on the Jeff Meacham Network as well. Why? What movie are we discussing that gets such coverage on two channels? None other than from 1990, Pretty Woman, starring Richard Gere, Julia Roberts, in his final film role, Ralph Bellamy, Jason Alexander, Hector Elizondo, and in bit parts, Hank Azaria and Eleanor Donahue. Hank Azaria, of course, best known for his work on The Simpsons. He's the voice of Moe, Police Chief Wiggum, comic book guy, Apu, and many, many others. Eleanor Donahue was from Father Knows Best way back in the 50s. And then, like I said, this was Ralph Bellamy's final film role before he passed away. We all know the story of Pretty Woman by now, or at least we should. Most everybody has seen this film. So, while yes, I'm going to recap the story like I always do, I'm going to try to just go through it quickly because we all should have seen this movie by now. I mean, this movie is 31 years old. It's crazy to think about that sometimes, that this movie has been a part of the mainstream for 31 years, part of society. Edward Lewis is a very successful businessman, right? He buys struggling companies and then he sells the pieces off, makes more money than he spent buying the company, more money than he would have made if he had just bought the company and sold the company. It's compared in the movie to like stealing a car and then selling the car off for parts. He's a native New Yorker, and Edward is in LA on business, obviously. He's going to make a deal with Mr. James Morse. I mean, Mr. Morse is a shipbuilder. His company is struggling. Edward wants his girlfriend to come and join him on the trip, but his girlfriend is tired of being his beck and call girl. So she breaks up with him on the phone. All right, cool. Edward's now a single man again. Edward's getting ready to leave a Hollywood Hills business party at his lawyer's house, and his limo is buried in the back of all the cars. No way to get the limo out. So he borrows his lawyer's keys to the Lotus so that he can get out of there. On his way back to his Beverly Hills hotel, he ends up on Hollywood Boulevard, the red light district. Encounters a prostitute named Vivian, Julia Roberts. He offers Vivian money, not for sexual favors, but because he's lost, he offers her money just to get him back to his hotel. Edward has lived a very privileged life. His first car was a limousine. He's never had to drive anywhere, and this Lotus is a manual transmission, not an automatic. So gives Vivian, I want to say it was $20 to get him home. She does. He pays her, and she's about to jump on the bus to go back to Hollywood Boulevard, go back to trying to turn some tricks. Edward, being a gentleman, invites her upstairs. So she joins him in the hotel, and they discuss fees. How much for the night? And if memory serves me correctly, because I didn't jot this part down, Vivian charges $300 for the whole night. Done. Edward pays her, no problem. And they have a very nice evening together. The next day, Edward asks Vivian if she'll be essentially his girlfriend for the week. He's got a lot of business stuff lined up. His lawyer feels that if he has somebody with him, a female, it might make the business meeting seem less threatening to Mr. Morse. So he asks her to essentially be his girlfriend for the week. She agrees, and they set the fee at $3,000. Plus, Edward even gives her an allowance to go buy some respectable clothing. Keep in mind, she's a prostitute, so she's got essentially a prostitute's wardrobe. She doesn't have anything elegant for these business meetings they're going to need to go to. So $3,000 plus an allowance for clothes. Where does a girl go to shop in Beverly Hills? Vivian hits Rodeo Drive. And she gets turned away everywhere she goes because she does not look like she belongs. And even though she has money to spend from Edward, no one wants to help her. They don't think that she's got money. Looks are deceiving. So she goes back to the hotel, and that's when we encounter Barney, the hotel manager. He stops her, interrogates her, basically wanting to know why she's at the hotel, who she's with, because he can kind of sense what she is. But what brings you to my hotel? She explains the situation to Barney. And begrudgingly, because of Edward's stature and status and the room that he has rented, the penthouse, the very best there is, Barney's like, okay, I'll let you stay. Mr. Lewis is a very important client to us. And if he wants you to be here, we'll let you stay for the week. Because he doesn't want to lose Edward as a client. One thing Barney does ask her, though, is he asks her to please dress more appropriately. At least don't walk around here looking like a prostitute. Vivian then tells him the whole story of her day and how she went down to Rodeo Drive trying to get clothes. Nobody would help her. So Barney gets on the phone and calls Bridget, which is a friend of his at a dress store, to do him a favor. When Edward arrives back at the hotel to meet Vivian in the hotel lounge, he's just blown away by the transformation. I mean, now Vivian looks like she belongs. And, not that Julia Roberts is not attractive anyways, because let's be real, especially in 1990, she was drop dead gorgeous, still is. She looked good in her prostitute clothes, but she just looked outstanding in her elegant clothes for Edward. So I totally, when Edward sees her and his jaw drops, you can completely understand why, because your jaw is dropping too. He begins to let his walls down now to Vivian, and the two of them begin to talk about his business and professional life and his personal life. She finds out a little bit of what it is that he does, and this is where the comparison comes into selling a car for the parts. They have a few nights out together, including a business dinner with Mr. Morse and his son David. This is one of the meetings that the lawyer was talking about, where having somebody else might make things a little less threatening. Because Vivian is so out of place in these situations, it just makes for a general lighter mood. However, things do become tense with the Morse men at dinner time, to the point where they walk out on the meeting, leaving just Edward and Vivian there to have dinner by themselves. A few days pass, and one day at a polo match, Philip, Edward's lawyer, suspects Vivian of possibly being a spy for the Morses. This feeling begins to grow exponentially when he sees Vivian talking to David. Because at this point, I don't remember if Philip knew that she was at the dinner with him. But seeing the two of them talk, he thinks that she's giving him intel about what they want to do. So without even thinking about the repercussions of all this, Edward begins to spew diarrhea of the mouth and tells Philip that's impossible. This girl's a prostitute. I met her on Hollywood Boulevard in your car. Just to basically try to take the edge off of Philip. Well, now that Philip has this information, later on in the day, Philip tries to proposition Vivian. Hey, once Edward takes off and goes back to New York, how about you and me hook up? Vivian is hurt. Not because she is what she was accused of, but because she was starting to feel that Edward was different and she wasn't expecting that. If she had any inclination to expect something like that to happen, it wouldn't have affected her. But because she was not expecting that type of betrayal, in a sense, totally threw her for a loop. Edward apologizes to her and begins to realize that some of Vivian's influence is rubbing off on him, which is a good thing, because he's starting to lose a little bit of his edge, not be as ruthless of a businessman as he used to be prior to his encounters with her. Edward ends up taking Vivian on a private jet to San Francisco to see an opera. And the opera they see, ironically, is a story about a prostitute who falls in love with a rich man. Sound familiar? The opera moves Vivian. And when they return to the hotel room, Vivian breaks her one rule of no kissing on the lips while having sex with Edward. The next morning, Vivian admits to her best friend Kit, who's also a prostitute, who was working with her the night that she met Edward, and actually told Vivian to go approach the Lotus that Edward was in. So had Kit approached that, this could all be a completely different movie. But because it was Vivian, I think is what makes it so endearing, because I don't think it would have stood the test of time if it had been Kit. But the next morning, Vivian admits to her best friend that she thinks she's in love with Edward. Edward is starting to feel feelings towards Vivian as well, to the point where he even offers to get her a condo and set her up. She will be taken care of with his money. And then whenever he comes to town, the two of them can do stuff. But she says that that's not her fairy tale ending. She declines the offer. She says that her fairy tale ending is being rescued by a knight on a white horse, climbing the tower and rescuing her. A couple days later, Edward takes a meeting with Mr. Morse, and the time has come. We're going to close the deal here. But during the meeting, Vivian's influence begins to creep into Edward. Edward asks everybody to leave the room except for him and Mr. Morse. Philip leaves, David leaves, all the other suits leave. And Edward proposes to Mr. Morse something that he's never done before. Instead of buying the company, selling it off for parts, and making a killing off of it, like he usually does, Edward proposes that they work together to save the company. Philip becomes furious at Edward when he finds out about this, because it means that he's going to make less money in the long run. Philip goes to the hotel to confront him, but instead he finds Vivian. And Philip blames Vivian for what Edward did. Philip then decides to try to attack and attempt to rape Vivian in order to get back at Edward. But Edward arrives on the scene, punches him, fires him, and throws him out of the room into the hallway. With all his business done in LA, Edward asks Vivian to stay one more night. Not because he's going to pay her, but because she wants to. She declines and leaves. Still upset by the proposition that he had made earlier and putting her up, and how that wasn't her fairy tale ending. Still upset by Philip trying to rape her. She's just like, I'm done with this. I'm gone. So she leaves. Barney has Edward's limo driver, the hotel limo driver, take her home. The next day, Edward's going to leave. Edward is on his way to the airport and decides that he's going to go see Vivian one more time. Limo driver takes him to Vivian's place. He calls out to her. So she comes out to the fire escape. He starts to yield his umbrella like a sword, climbs out of the sunroof of the limo, scales the fire escape, which this right there in of itself shows his feelings for her, because he's scared of heights. Has mentioned it numerous times during the course of the movie. Afraid of heights, but the penthouse suite is the best, and Edward will only accept the best. So he's climbing this fire escape, which helps him conquer his fear of heights a little bit. gives Vivian the fairy tale ending that she always wanted. You know, a man, white steed, white limo, scaling the tower, climbing the fire escape to rescue her. They kiss, and the movie ends. Pretty Woman is probably the very first film that I saw that was a chick flick that I just loved to pieces. Pretty Woman is so good, it gets 5 out of 5 stars. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This movie is a great movie, has always been a great movie, will continue to always be a great movie. And there's really nothing bad that I can say about this film whatsoever. Make sure you get out there on social media. Get those hashtags trending. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios. Hashtag Renegades Reviews. Hashtag Renegade Returns. Hashtag Jeff Meacham Network. And of course, the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade J.J. Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag Statboy Approved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you get out there. Do exactly what the commercial just told you. Support the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood. Get you your Dad's Not Always on Wrestling shirt. Get you your Renegade J.J. Williams shirt. Get you your Talk Wrestling, your Meachamania shirts. Get you your Stat Boy Sports Bar shirt. And make sure you get you your shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network in the classic logo and the new Back to the Future theme styled logo. Make sure you join me here tomorrow on Renegades Reviews, exclusively on the Casa D18 Studios channel, when I discuss 13 Going on 30, a film with strong ties to Marvel films and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with Jennifer Garner, Mark Ruffalo, Judy Greer, Andy Serkis, Brie Larson, and Ashley Benson. Thank you for watching me here on Renegades Reviews, as always. Special thank you once again to the Jeff Meacham Network for allowing the encore presentation to go on today in place of a Dad's Not Always on Wrestling topic. So you get your fix of the Renegade every Friday on the Jeff Meacham Network, every day on the Casa D18 Studios channel. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.